a new or inspiring business owner, this is the podcast you've been waiting to hear. This is the Chamber of Commerce Show. We'll help you, the new business owner, grow your business. And we'll help you, the inspiring business owner, learn from others. This isn't about theory. It's about what works and what doesn't. You've listened to the inspirational and motivational podcasts, but this isn't like other shows. Some of us get tired of listening to the fluff on how millionaires became millionaires. What we want to know is what experiences shaped these individuals and how they manage issues that come their way. Now, it's time for you to roll up your sleeves and get to work. Here are your hosts, Chris Luna and Tommy Hernandez.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 3 of the Chamber of Commerce Show. Chris and I are joined by special guests today, Joe Carillo, Executive Recruiter.
And I'm Chris Luna, CFO at thepiñatadistrict.com. First off, I would want to thank Revel Systems for sponsoring this episode. So if you're in need of a point of sale for your business, feel free to look online and request a demo at www.revelambassador.com.
And here today, we want to talk to Joe a little bit about his executive recruiting business. Obviously, highlight his successes in the industry, get a better idea for his journey. If anybody else is interested in getting into recruiting, what that might take. And then obviously, as the name of our show highlights, the Chamber of Commerce, possible networking opportunities that might help Joe in his success over the years. So welcome, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Definitely.
Appreciate it.
And so just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit of your background and how you got started in recruiting.
Yeah, so went to Cal Poly Pomona for college, graduated out of there in 2011. I graduated with psychology. That's what I thought I was going to do at the time. Okay. I was taking some internships, and the speech pathology was a field that I was really getting interested in. Okay. A couple months later, after checking that out and shadowing some doctors, I was picked up by Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Okay. So went in a totally different direction. It was very much sales, customer service oriented, and Enterprise Rent-A-Car has a good management trainee program. Right. So from the ground up, they'll teach you how to run your own business. Essentially, that's the point. How to conduct HR, how to look at your P&Ls, all that good stuff. So really got my my business sense from working there, and then just being able to talk to people on a day-to-day basis and just make sure that everybody wins at the end of the day. So from there on out, I felt it was time to move on to something else, maybe something that I probably had a bit more of a passion for. Mm-hmm. So I got picked up by Agilon. They're in West Covina here, but they're a worldwide organization for recruiting. They're under the larger Adecco group. Okay. Now here in the United States, Adecco is more known for your light industrial, your warehouse workers, that kind of thing. But in Europe, they take care of those C-level types of positions, pretty much soup to nuts, everything from high and low, all that good stuff. But they leave anything that's office related, they leave it to Agilon to take care of. We also have accounting principals to take care of the accounting and finance type of thing. But got into recruiting with them. I've been an executive recruiter. I've been working there for about just over 2 years now. Okay. I've enjoyed it quite a bit. What I like about it the most is that at the end of the day, that you were able to help someone get a job, mm-hmm. which will impact their livelihood and their families, right. Essentially. And it's always a good feeling when you did something good for somebody like that, and you really went to bat when they might have been struggling or have been seeing some challenges out in the job market currently. Though it's a candidate's market, it's not as easy as that may sound. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's kind of my story since then. I've been chugging along. I have a few other side projects. I'm also a podcast host, so I still have that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, so we were on your podcast this past week, which episode, which aired today.
Today, yeah.
So where can we find that?
FooBarShow.com, FOOBarshow.com.
Yeah. So nothing like this, right?
Nothing like this. It's very much relaxed. Very, very kind of.
We had a good time in your show, honestly.
Yes, we did.
That was the second time I did it. First time with Tommy.
That's right.
And it's definitely different. So for the audience,
it's a lot more casual.
Yeah, don't get afraid if you see his show.
Yeah, not a business focus.
You know what I like though is a lot of people tell me I'm two-faced. Okay, and I think I hear it in a good way.
Okay,
and
I hope
used
so.
to say it in a good way because honestly, I mean, we're young.
Mm-hmm.
We've known each other for a long time.
Yes.
And I think everyone has that side to them, right? But at the same time, we can be professional. We can have those day jobs and carry ourselves in a different way. And I think that's one of the reasons why I did really well in sales too, is because everyone's in different levels, and you have to be able to put yourself in the same level, not above or below, but at the same level, whoever you're talking to.
Yeah.
So I think that's what if they do watch that show, I think that's something they should consider when they're watching it, is that we're the same person, but we can put ourselves in different scenarios, right?
Oh yeah, and that's one of the things that I think made me successful, just like you said, is that I can adapt and put myself in different kinds of situations, and know when to let your guard down.
Yeah, a lot of people can't do that, honestly.
No.
Like, I mean, I've had employees and they're just, always playing around, and there's a time where, hey, it's time to get serious, let's work, or vice versa. There's people who are really, the opposite, and you can't go and have a drink with them and talk more casually with them. So I think it works to our advantage, honestly.
I feel like that's why I'm so interested in finding out about Joe's career, because I feel like it is a sales-focused job, but at the same time, not only are you selling something that is beneficial to your client.
Yeah.
It's not like you're coming to them with a catalog of things that they might not want or need. You're just competing with somebody. This is something that you're trying to help them out.
Right.
And you have a previous knowledge of sociology, because at the end of the day, it's a people business.
It is.
You have to love people, right, to be able to be in the recruitment world. Because you have to cold call. You have to figure out how to learn about other people, right?
Right. Making those relationships with not only the person you're trying to go at bat for a position that you see out there, but also trying to cold call the company to see if they're willing to even use you as a service. Because not every company is interested, has the budget, thinks it's worth investing in a recruiting. It's all about cost at the end of the day too. So that's.
So if I have a business and I hire a company like yours to do recruiting for us, how many recruiters are focusing in my business? Is it just one, or how does?
That's a good question. It depends on the company that you reach out to. Obviously, you're going to have some more basic kind of recruiting firms that they may work from home. There's less overhead, obviously, because of that. The price is going to be a little bit lower, but the resources won't be there behind their services. Now, what I like about a company like ours is that we all collaborate as executive recruiters. We put our heads together and say, you have A, B, and C candidates. Let's see if X, Y, and Z company would be able to get matched up with any one of these. So
your Rolodex is definitely a lot larger. So
oh, totally. So
your candidate pool.
Yeah, I can reach out to a colleague of mine in West Hollywood, Woodland Hills, and say, hey, I'm working on a position in East LA. Do you have any candidates who are willing to drive there, or some that you've met in your networking that are in that particular area? So definitely have a lot more resources and networking capabilities when I'm.
Yeah, and it's very costly too. I mean, all those services cost. I'm sure you guys use every job board in the book, and paying for that is very expensive. I know that because I do it in-house, and we spend, we're a small business, so it's a lot of money, but we're at $1,000, if not more, and just advertising and recruiting, and it's very costly for businesses. So.
Yeah, one of the things, the only thing that'll make you really successful and really make you shine in this kind of industry is being able to network. Because with the candidate market, just in case you guys aren't aware, it's below 4% unemployment. It's probably the lowest it's been in a very, very long time. So it's not like you're going to post something up and you're going to get a bunch of resumes just hitting your inbox the next morning. You probably are, but maybe they're not.
You do, but they're not really serious.
They're not serious, or they're not qualified. They're just kind of shooting it to see what happens. They're just pressing apply.
That bothers me so much. I remember when I used to look for a position, I will look at the job description, look at the company, and say, okay, I want this position. Yeah, I'm not applying just because I want to see if they call me. I want the position.
Right.
So I'll find out who the recruiter is, or when I applied for Chase, I submitted my application, but I went to that branch and I say, hey, here's a copy of my resume. I just submitted an application online. Is there any way I can talk to the branch manager or the recruiter?
Yeah.
And sure enough, the branch manager said, hey, give me a second, sit down, let me call the recruiter right now.
Nice.
So he called the recruiter, and they set up an interview for me. So you need to take those extra steps, and I feel like people aren't doing that anymore.
Right.
No, it's been a little weird lately. I mean, and we're not used to it as recruiters. So the ones that are going to be doing well are the ones that are seeking out those passive candidates, the ones that are currently employed, but maybe have like a foot out the door, or just putting their feelers out there to see what else is out there, to see if a company that perhaps may be or may not be in the same industry has grass that's greener on their side. Right. So
yeah. I feel like I recently had got hired from a recruiter, and it was exactly like you talked about. It was something where I never planned on leaving my company. I was very happy, and all they did was figured out, hey, this person fits our profile. Let's give them a call. Let's try to build a relationship, figure out if there's an opportunity.
Right.
And I mean, kind of going, yeah.
A lot of that's LinkedIn.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, LinkedIn is huge.
LinkedIn is a powerful tool these days.
I think a lot of people who have profiles on LinkedIn, they're not doing it to look for other jobs, but it is, you're doing it more for the connections, you're in sales, so you're doing it for sales.
Yeah.
But obviously you have recruiters that's a big thing for them, right? And they saw your LinkedIn, and I'm sure that's how they contacted you.
Right. And then kind of building it back into a career kind of outlook, and then also your personality. Describe to the audience a little bit the difference between an agency recruiter necessarily, or a recruiter from an agency versus a in-house recruiter for like a bigger company. Obviously, not only the
corporate recruiter type.
Yeah, corporate recruiter. Bigger companies have basically a team of 10 people that do that full time. And there isn't necessarily the reward there. There's a different mindset.
There is, and the main difference is that the corporate recruiter is going to look out for the things that are only relevant to their company, but they're going to be spread a little bit more thin. Whereas, for example, my company, at least with me, though my company places all kinds of office positions, I typically focus more on human resources and supply chain and logistics types of personnel.
And why is that?
That's just the niche because of where we're located here in the San Gabriel Valley.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of manufacturing and distribution, so supply chain and logistics is huge just because of where we are geographically, and then human resources. Every company either has or wants a human resource department to make sure that they're compliant with everything that they do, especially if their workforce is particularly large. So, that's my niche of what I go for. So, thus, I specialize in those two kinds of fields.
So you're smarter for essentially looking at the field and saying, hey, where are my numbers, greatest? Where is my chances for success greatest? And I'm going to go after that versus trying to make it hard, especially because if the money is there and you have more opportunity and more networking relationships, then it's easier, right?
Yeah, well, it's easier to place those and be a resource for that company for that particular kind of position. And because I've been networking and I have people from my own company focusing on different things like accounting, finance, they can place your CFOs and controllers. I can reach out to them, and I'll still have those same amount of resources. I just won't be working on them personally.
Gotcha.
Whereas a corporate recruiter is spread thin throughout all the. They have to essentially, to be successful in placing everything, specialize in every single kind of position that belongs to that company. Where I can just go in there and focus, and here's a few candidates and streamline that particular position for them.
Wow, that makes perfect sense.
And then as far as
I never thought about that.
Yeah, and then for a corporate recruiter, I mean, essentially, for people looking into getting into recruiting, a position like that would be more so, an even pay structure with maybe a bonus here and there versus working for an agency. There's a lot more money to be made. There's, commissions. There's, there's so much benefit.
There's more incentive.
If you have that mindset of like, I'm hungry, I'm going to cold call, I'm going to network, I'm going to do everything it takes to make as much money as I want. Versus corporate recruiters a little more, hey, I have my solid pay, I need to meet my numbers in a certain amount of time, but you don't have that that high ceiling of a pay structure?
Depending on the company too. I've heard of some corporate recruiters that are incentivized by the amount of placements they make per quarter. However, because I don't want to say they're capped, but in a way they kind of are, because there's only so many positions at their company. Whereas if you're a recruiter with a staffing firm like ours, sky's the limit. I mean, if you can get it, just go ahead and there's no cap.
And that's typically for an agency, it's a percentage of the salary, correct? What you guys get paid as a company usually?
Yes. So typically, if my particular staffing firm, we're full service, which means we do temp to hire and direct hire opportunities. My focus is on direct hire, more on a higher level, which tends to be anywhere from $60K annual salary and above. So those kinds of positions. So if to make the numbers easy and just to make it basic, well, at least right now, the average fee agreement is about 25% of the first annual salary of that person.
Nice.
So if this person is going to be earning $100K, the company's going to be paying.
I mean, if I'm the company and you brought to me this candidate and we finally hire them, are you charging upfront for that? What if they leave 3 months from the day of hire?
So in that fee agreement, we have an understanding that says that if they don't work out within the first 30 days, then you get your money back.
Just 30 days?
Yes.
So from 60 days,
from 31 to 90, it's a best effort replacement.
That's
so we'll replace it.
Okay.
Well, we have our money, but we've committed to do our due diligence in trying to replace that position. After 90, on the 91st day, thank you for the business kind of thing. So
that's a hell of a deal.
So yeah, if we're working with $100K, 25%, $25,000 is paid to our staffing firm for using our resources.
Very nice, very nice.
And I mean that when you factor in time, labor of an HR department trying to fulfill that same position, it might make sense a lot of the times, just for the sake of time.
It's time consuming, but I think you're paying more for the quality, honestly.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like you're not going to want to bring in someone on board if they're not going to be fit, or if you're going to have those returns, in 30 or 60 days. Right. Because you don't want to be going back and forth with the company too.
Right.
So I feel like you're bringing more of a quality candidate rather than just a company that's.
Oh, we've properly vetted them. We've asked them all the questions, and I make it a point to not only meet all my candidates, but also meet with all my clients, because I need to know what kind of environment, what kind of picture I'm going to paint to the candidate that I'm going to pretty much be selling this position to, because a lot of the times they're passive candidates, like I'm saying. Unemployment's at 4%. Pretty much everybody's employed. They're just passive. So it's kind of the other side of the sales, where you're not just trying to get a company to use your services. You're trying to get the candidate to jump ship, essentially.
Have you ever been on that other side where you're actually trying to find companies to retain a company like yours?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, it's kind of just comes with it. It happens. But if a company's my client, I'm not going to try to poach their people either.
No. What I'm saying is, are you on the other side of looking for companies to offer those services to, basically? So like mine, do you go looking for other businesses?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's part of the marketing efforts that we put through to try to make sure that, I mean, they'll use us if it makes sense. My
are there
job.
Sales reps specifically for that? That's my question.
There is,
two different positions, or are you doing both?
Okay, I get you now. So there's three kinds of positions, at least in my office. There's a business development manager, which is sales all day long, just bring in the business. There's staffing managers, which are just recruiting all day long and matching those candidates with the orders that come in. Me as an executive recruiter, I wear both hats at all times. Gotcha. So I'm trying to attract direct hire business and capture candidates that would match to those opportunities.
And do you get commissions both ways as well?
Yes. Oh, so I'd get it on both sides of the pie.
That's awesome.
So it's a bigger piece of the pie.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So essentially, you have your 25% off of a salary for one position. That's what your company gets, and then you have your base salary, and then your commission is based off of
a percentage of that.
Okay, so whatever you get.
Depending on how I'm doing at that time of the year, it kind of fluctuates. It's it grows with the more successful you are.
Right.
So it's just one of those things.
So for those hungry, people out there that are looking to network and want to continue to make more money, I mean, that's just
that's where the Chamber of Commerce comes in.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just networking and building your business
Exactly.
is huge.
Which is nice because I've attended quite a few Chamber of Commerce events. Most recently, I was at a Brea event. I've been to the Chamber of Commerce in Irwindale, the joint Chamber of Commerce with everything from San Gabriel Valley up and down. I've been to a few of those. Those are very, very enjoyable. I mean, everybody's there to just meet everyone. Everybody's really friendly. It's a good time to network.
Yeah.
And then just put your name out there because a lot of Chamber of Commerce events also give everybody the opportunity to give their 30-second commercial.
Right.
And just, where are you coming from? So maybe if you hear somebody on the other side that says, oh, I'm from a startup company, well, cool, let me go talk to them. I'm a recruiter. I may have some candidates that might be useful for your company since it's growing, or you're expecting growth.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, going back to your personal, let's just say a regular work day. I mean, you've essentially told me that you're working both sides of the fence as far as being able to, you're essentially running your own business.
Right.
That's what it sounds like. Are you running your own CRM system where you're keeping your candidates and all your companies on one side, or does your company provide you with basically a CRM system that divides it amongst reps? Like, do you get supported that way, or is it all on you to find companies?
Yeah, no, we do have our
candidates?
software system.
Okay.
For example, right now we're using a software system called Cosmos. We're phasing that out. We're going to migrate into a more mainstream talent acquisition software called Bullhorn. I understand other staffing firms use it, and they've been very successful in doing so. So I think it's going to become one of those major kinds of softwares that you would see a lot of HR departments starting to use. Nice. So I'm excited for that implementation. Wow. But yes, it does assist you in dividing up or just organizing your work. Yeah, you would get resumes through there,
your
screen
pipeline.
them. Your pipeline, yeah, whether it's client or candidate, it's all stored there. And if you want to take it a little bit further, of course, I'm all about Microsoft Outlook. My entire day is planned through there. I tell people if you call me and I'm not available, please email me because I'll definitely get in touch with you if you email me.
That's the most important thing for sales is to be available and to answer or respond to calls as fast as possible.
Or set the expectation of how they can get in touch with you fastest.
Exactly.
Now, is this system, are all your candidates coming in through this one system, or do you guys have to go to like ZipRecruiter or Indeed and Career Builder and all these different platforms?
So what happens currently with our current system is that we would post something through that system. It puts it on our immediate.com. So if you go to agilon.com, our job board, and then other sites would start grabbing those posts. Like Indeed would just grab it and post it on their site. ZipRecruiter, all those other ones, those crawler sites will just start posting them on their own. It could delay it maybe about a week or so, give or take. But they'll be on there eventually. But I do have the resource of just a direct post on Indeed or LinkedIn. I do have the option of just going straight up on Indeed or LinkedIn.
Do you ever
to
do
post
that?
It. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Especially
which one? Well, I guess I don't know if you want to say,
but
which one do you like the most?
I enjoy LinkedIn and Indeed for different reasons. LinkedIn, you have a bigger network of people that you can just easily message right away if you like what you see on their resume. Whereas Indeed, it's like its own talent acquisition software in itself because you can kind of organize or like select a bunch of candidates and then send them a nice reject letter. Or something like that.
Yeah, we use Indeed. It's really easy.
It's user friendly.
Yeah, I like being able to set up the interviews through there, and like you said, we use I don't like to say it, but we use the questions in the beginning of the portion when they submit the application.
Oh yeah,
you can
filter them out that way. It makes the job easy.
There's a ton of applications that we get.
It's the best, and you know what? When I get requisitions that are very particular, like they're looking for that unicorn candidate, you have to use this. Otherwise, you're sifting through all these resumes. So you have to ask: do you speak Spanish or Chinese? Do you have 3 years of experience in a manufacturing environment? Do you have a bachelor's degree? You know, if they answer no, they're not popping up in your front page, and you've just filtered out a big chunk of candidates that way. So,
and that's what makes it really hard for candidates, though, because I always tell, friends or family, whoever I know is looking for a job, I'm like, honestly, they're not even looking at your name. Right. They're not looking at the details of the application. It's just what are those keywords and what your background is. If you really want that job, a specific job, a lot of people don't do that anymore. They really have to do the research and try and obtain that job.
And part of my job, it's not only sales and recruiting, but it's also coaching and consulting. Right. So consulting to my clients to make sure that they're as realistic as possible when making the requisition. Because many times I've gone back to them and said, "This person doesn't exist. You're crazy. Like, I don't know what you're talking about."
A unicorn.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously they're just like, "Well, you're the headhunter, right?" I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not a magician." Yeah. So and then on the coaching side, you're coaching the candidate on how to do well, not only when they're being presented to the client and they're shaking their hand for the first time, but way before that, before I even submit their resume, I'm coaching them on what to put on that resume. Right. Because I don't like to be selfish and just say I'm doing this because I want to place you. I'm doing this because I'd want you to get a job, because I think the networking relationship is a lot more stronger when it's honest. Yeah. When at the end of the day they're calling me because, "Oh, Jose, I got a job. I'm sorry. Thank you for all your help." I was like, well, what led to that? It's like, well, you helped me with my resume. There was a few keywords that I was missing, things that I weren't quantifying, successes and accomplishments that I wasn't putting into that resume that made me more marketable. Yeah. So thus, hopefully one day that candidate becomes a client, because they know my work ethic. They know that I care about the person when I meet them and when I present them, and and I'm just looking out for the best. Right.
And then that's your reputation.
Right.
I mean, you don't want to be placing anybody just to get money, because it makes you look bad. Mm-hmm. And I mean, in my experience, I had told Chris, like I'm kind of one of those weirdos. I love interviews. Like, I look forward to meeting new people, and like that's just my sales background. But the recruiter that I work with, I really enjoyed the experience. I mean, she was top notch. She got to know me, and at the end of the day, like, I always mess around with Chris because, I'll go out with new friends, just new people that I meet, and it always astonishes me and my wife where at the end of the night I'll go back home and I'm like, nobody really asks you questions. Like I have that mindset where I'm always asking, trying to learn about
That's
people.
why he's a good co-host.
And nobody
knows how to ask those right questions.
Yeah, and nobody ever asks you about yourself, like, about your career, your family.
Right.
And in this instance, I could hear her on the other line typing everything that I said, which, hey, that's her job. But at the same time, when I called her later, she was like, "Hey, so you have your bachelor party coming up. Like, you looking forward to it? Your wedding's in a couple weeks." And she had all this notes, but it made me feel good that she paid attention. Yeah. And like you said, she helped you with the next phone call. This is what you should be prepared for. Mm-hmm. Yeah. On your side, it's a people business. What's your biggest challenge? Because I feel like not only do you have to figure out, hey, are these guys going to help my reputation or keep it, but you got to make sure, are these people lying, as far as, what they're saying?
Yeah. And that's part of the challenge. I mean, the bigger challenge is just working with people. People are unpredictable. Right. People can change their mind at a drop of a hat. It's just making sure that you have all the information possible to minimize that risk of somebody just going haywire on you. I mean,
ghosting you, but
exactly, which is a thing these days, by the way. And Chris, you're a business owner. You know about ghosting.
It was funny. Did I send you that article that I saw on LinkedIn about ghosting?
You might have. Yes. Yeah. Actually, I did see that.
I don't know what it is.
That goes back to the 4% you're talking about.
Less than 4% of people are unemployed.
It's a simple email or text or phone call, and just tell me you're not interested. Yeah. But
that's not happening.
They make it so difficult,
If we're trying to look at it from their perspective, and I mean, they're probably unemployed for a reason. Yeah, sure. They probably don't have the best people skills. Yeah. They probably don't know how to read a room. Whatever it may be, there's a few variables I'm sure that are in play. But I mean, when it comes down to it, there might be a sense of entitlement because they know that the candidate market, it's a candidate's market right now.
You're getting cocky.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, that must make things more difficult though too. I never really thought about that, but I mean, you could be where you don't care, but I mean, you don't want to close those bridges either. I mean, I feel like you're a good resource to have, and they should definitely keep that door open.
But if I'm looking at patterns and being a psychology major, I mean, that's probably just how they think.
Right.
I don't think you're going to change them when it comes down.
But I'll be honest. Like, I had another recruiting company that tried to get me into a job, and I went through the first interview, and I killed it. They wanted to have a second one, but the recruiter was just like had bad people skills. Was very rude.
Wow.
Were very rude and not understanding that I had a full-time job. And that, if I didn't...
You don't have to leave.
Yeah. That, and then, if I didn't respond to him within an hour, he got pissed off and he was like blowing up my phone. And I'm like,
God.
All right, like, hey, this is great. I respect that you're trying to...
That's crazy.
You're getting me a job, but, it's a people business. And you just trust that I'm going to get back to you and things will go smooth. And I ended up just... telling them to go kick rocks because of that experience. But it was for the better. But it just was a bad experience. So I can imagine that your goal is to present well and give them a good experience, right?
I just need to know that if I'm going to go to bat for you, that you're also going to put your best foot forward and not ruin.
And what's your ratio? I mean, like, have you had your bad experiences to good experiences?
There's been some weird experiences. For example, the very, very first placement I had this year, and you wouldn't think it would come from this kind of person, but she was an HR generalist. Okay. There was an opportunity, and because based on everything that she told me when I met her, she said if there was at any point that if I had a position that was just about benefit analysis, benefit coordination, for just being that kind of specialized HR personnel in that department, please tell her about it. Lo and behold, I have a benefit analyst position at a manufacturer in City of Industry. She goes to the first, second, third interview, meets the CEO, the president, has the whole thing. Everybody's in love. Please have her start the first Tuesday of the year. We get a phone call. I send an email saying, hey, I like to just do that on everybody's first day. I shoot an email. Hey, congratulations. I hope you have a good first day. If there's any questions, please let me know. Right. Just so I can follow up if there's any issues on day one, which I hope there isn't, because that's a red flag. Right. Well, we get a phone call from the company saying, hey, she didn't show up.
Oh, my God.
Man.
She didn't show up. What's going on?
I thought that only happens with me. That's horrible.
Yeah, she didn't show up, and this is like a high-level HR person, who you think would have at least more of a responsibility to at least give us a heads up that she had she had no intention of showing up the first day.
Oh,
so we're trying to track her down. We're thinking something like
happened to her.
Something happened to her. Is she okay? I call her husband.
Well, look, let's keep the suspense. Let's go to a commercial break. All right, cool. Let's go to a break real quick. And it's funny because this is where I wanted to take the conversation. So
nice.
Let's go ahead and take a quick 5, and we'll be.
The flavors and the aroma of Mediterranean food is something different, and it's exotic. It transports you into a different world. So here at Saj, customers love the food and the experience.
People nowadays eat differently than they used to. They want healthy, fresh, quick, customizable, fast. With Revel, we're able to actually move the line as fast as we need to. We touch anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 people a day, so speed is extremely important.
The best part about Revel for us, it's the tools that you guys provide.
One of the features we're using right now is forecasting labor. It puts us at an advantage to have the right analytics and the right data in our hands to make wise business decisions.
The cool thing is the offline mode works and we're still able to generate all the data. There's a substantial amount of money at lost if we don't have that feature. At Saj, we implemented the online ordering through Revel so that the orders could pop up on the POS in real time, and we're aware of them right away. In terms of transaction, in terms of credit card, in terms of everything, we don't have to rely on an outsource for that. We're built to scale. When we first opened Saj, we had 1 location and 1 food truck. Right now, we're in 3 different locations, and we have 2 food trucks.
Once you set it up once, you could replicate it in different locations. When there is a change, you just change it once and you just upload it to all the different stores at the same time. It allows us to have consistency, which is extremely important in our business. It's a great privilege to actually run a business like this and be a business owner.
We definitely recommend Revel for other businesses.
Fuerte el aplauso para ella.
sell tens of thousands of piñatas a year for every occasion. My name is Chris Luna. I'm the CFO for Raquel's Candy and Confections in the Piñata District. So we manufacture a lot of the piñatas here in downtown LA. Everything is handmade. Anything that you can think of, we can make. So the piñata making process is very unique because they have to be very strong to withhold various hits, and we sell it to our main store that's here off Olympic. Our business, Raquel's, has been around since the 80s. My parents were, the first to import a lot of this traditional Hispanic product. They actually retired about 18 years ago, and that's when three brothers took over the business. We are a new generation adapting to this industry. We saw that piñatas are unique. We're just trying to look at something that not everyone does and something that not everyone can do. And that's kind of why we focused a lot more on the piñatas. There is certain trade secrets to it that we've improved our process over the years. We're millennials ourselves, so we're very technology driven. We're trying to see what items, what technology, what machines we can use to improve this process. We actually manage the Piñata District, which is 2 or 3 blocks here in downtown LA that sells nothing but piñatas. The piñatas has been trending for the last, I would say, 6 to 10 years. You have different cultures that want that in their parties. When you go shopping at our business, it's like you're already at a party.
With Revel Systems, we've saved over $1,000 a month because we have the flexibility to choose any sort of payment processor. We've been working with Revel Systems for over 6 months now, and we couldn't be happier. On Valentine's Day, we serve upwards of 600 people, and with our old POS system, it just wasn't cutting it. But with the new Revel system, we increased sales by 20% the next year. It's a beautiful, sleek design, and it's small, and it fit perfectly in our 200 square foot shop. And it's so nice that we have the offline mode, so when the internet does go down, all the data is still stored, and the reports that are given to us are super valuable. One report that we use all the time is the product's mix report. It's so important for me to be able to see that report in the kitchen, so I know exactly what I need to make for the next day. In the next few years, we definitely plan on expanding, and as we grow, we're definitely going to grow with Revel.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Chamber of Commerce Show with Chris and Tommy. If you want to join our conversations, follow us on Twitter at The Chamber Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Chris and I are back with Joe C., a.k.a. Joe Carillo. We're in the middle of a good story, so set it up again.
Yeah, so you were mentioning to us how this high-level HR person that works as an HR generalist didn't show up to her first day on the job after 3 interviews, you said?
After a full-on thing.
Onboarding
process.
Everything.
Yeah.
So what happened with that?
She didn't show up. I was very worried that something had happened to her because it was the weekend right after the New Year. It was the first Tuesday of the year that she was supposed to report into work, and she just didn't show up. I'm calling the husband. He's assuring me that she's okay as far as he knows.
Oh.
And but he was a little confused too because but he knew that she had a new job to start that day.
Wow.
So I'm like, well, where the heck is she? So I obviously I go to the first resource anybody would have in their pocket is Facebook. I type in her name.
Stalker.
Yeah, dude. And I pull up her name. I was like, oh wow, she's on Facebook. Evidently, I look up, and being the good HR professional that she is, she posts that she started a job at a whole totally different company.
Oh, man.
So I'm just like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, a phone call or a text
horrible.
or an email would have been nice.
That's horrible.
I mean, some kind of heads up. That way I'm not losing credibility with this company. Yeah. And what made it even tougher was that this company it's the first time that we're working with this VP of HR. She just got hired. She's a brand new VP of HR, so she's also assessing her vendors, you know.
And that's her
Seeing
day.
if you're doing your job right or not. Yeah,
and that's
you.
our first impression
Wow.
to her. And this person just burns us.
That's crazy.
I couldn't help but just comment on her Facebook post and say congratulations.
That is crazy. Honestly, I thought that only happens with us. I mean, we're not executive level, but I have
Nobody's
to hire,
safe,
I have
Chris.
to hire 2 to 3 candidates for the same position. Honestly, this past week, I was just telling you, this week was horrible for me. We hired 3 people for 1 position. Okay, one of them never showed up to the first day. 2 of them showed up. One of them showed up the first day. The second day, he called or texted me saying that he needs to go to the hospital. His girlfriend's pregnant.
Okay.
I'll see you on Friday or whatever. He skipped the day. Text me on Friday, like the day's already over. Sorry, I didn't go in today. I didn't even know I didn't work today.
Okay.
So this guy just showed up for 1 day. The other guy worked 2 days and then quit.
Oh man.
So
you were trying to play her odds.
3? Yes.
You were trying to play her odds.
I hired 3, and out of those 3, nothing. It's for a small company. I mean, I still have to go through the same process as onboarding. They still have to sign their job offer letter. They still have to sign their
yeah.
you know, all these tax forms, all these emergency contacts, all these signatures. You know, and you still go through the backgrounds, and there's so much stuff, you know, and it's money. You know, we spend a lot of money in that process. Yeah, and for them not to just care, you know what I mean? It's horrible, and like I said, I'm so surprised that you even go through that.
Yeah. That's
Oh yeah, nobody's safe. Like
Yeah.
I'm saying, nobody's safe.
That's crazy.
It's just the culture that we're living in these days, and people know that they can just probably get another job, especially at a lower level. Like at a lower level, you can just go and get a job at minimum wage. I mean, they're out there. You can just.
So what was the client's response? Did they chew
No,
your ass out, or did they understand that it was a people problem?
I'm sure they've been through it themselves.
Well, because this was our first impression with her, we tried to be like, oh my God, this has never happened. We didn't foresee this happening. You know, we try to bring her a pie, but she hasn't used us since. So
That told you everything.
it left a bad taste in their mouth. Unfortunately, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, you know, it's not your fault, but it's out of your control. So it's just like, move on.
In sales, that's what it is. I mean, you can do everything right, but there's stuff that's out of your control.
Other variables.
And
that's why I said people.
Yeah.
People are the challenge sometimes.
And the hardest part about it is that you're running your own business and you're the face of your business.
That's why Amazon is the way they are. Just machines.
Yeah.
They don't have to rely on people and their characters and all their, you know, everything that goes.
Automation.
Yes. That's scary.
Automation is huge, and there's going to be a huge shift in supply chain logistics with automation.
I have to email you another article that I read, but they're saying that a lot of people are thinking that the unemployment rate is going to go up because of automation, but in reality, it's not.
No.
It's not, because you got to have people to maintain those machines.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot more MROs, like maintenance and repair people for those machines.
But they're going to need higher talent, you know, because what those machines are replacing are things that really anyone can do physically, right?
Well,
but
there's
a
an
lot
engineering background too for some of them.
Or you could have a consulting company. Like, for instance, like you talk about the type of positions that you fill in city of industry. And, you know, given my background, not only was I selling a product, I would sell a lot of automation. So my goal was to go into these city of industry production plants, or Vernon or LA, wherever. And I would try to go through the plant and say, where can we cut people out? And as bad as that made me feel, you know, I had to, you know, put food on the table as well. So it's like you see, you know, production plants, and you see 4 guys doing a job that one person can do, or not even one person can do. And, you know, for instance, you know, there was an automated process where, you know, a forklift driver for 8 hours a day was driving from one end of the warehouse to the other.
Right.
And obviously he would take his break, both breaks. He would take his lunch. He'd go talk to his friends, you know, around the
go to the restroom like 20 times a day, hang out for like 10, 15 minutes in there.
So we ended up putting, you know, basically a smart cart. Smart cart would essentially go along a path that was one of our engineers put in the warehouse.
Right, like a rail or something.
A rail, and would go back and forth 8 to 10 hours a day, never stop, never take breaks. And it was a repetitive process, and you didn't need anybody to do it.
Right.
And we ended up putting 4 of them in there. Wow. And it's sad that
Did they say Skynet on the side?
Yeah, no, same thing, right? And it was just, it makes you look at it and feel bad, but at the end of the day, that is people you're taking out, supply chain. You're talking about manual labor, and it is tough. So.
It's just a shift in labor. You're not taking jobs away. I think you're just shifting where those jobs are going to become available.
Right.
I always believed in education being the #1 thing you can go back on. Is like those people are just going to have to re-educate themselves.
Yeah, invest in yourself.
Like the coal industry, they're going to have to re-educate on how to belong to a more cleaner industry if they still want to be part of a utility.
That's
like that.
business in general.
It's just
you
business.
just have to innovate.
Yeah,
everyone just has to stay fresh.
Integrate. Yeah.
I was watching that movie, and it's totally random, but I was watching the movie. I think it was a Disney movie with. It was about the first black women that worked for NASA. And and they were, essentially was that where they brought in these IBM computers and they were supposed to take their jobs, but these women were so smart and they learned how to work on those IBM computers, and they ended up moving into that department, and it just blew my mind where that's 30, 40 years ago, but
if you can find the edge, take it.
Yeah. Educate yourself. So I'm all for that.
Totally.
Yeah, that's what I tell my employees. I'm like, you have to show me why you're here. Why you and not someone else? Because I feel like a lot of employees, they just go and do what they do, and it doesn't. I mean, there's no reason for me to keep you. There should be a reason why I need you. You know what I mean? And
value.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you call in sick, I need to realize that you're not here.
Exactly.
Like it needs to hurt a little bit.
Not just because that person's not here, but why isn't Joe here? You know what I mean? Because I need Joe here. There's a reason why I have Joe and not just someone else in that position.
Right.
And you have to make yourself valuable in any position that you have.
That's a good point.
That's why, machines will never take over, because if you keep yourself valuable, if you keep yourself talented, if you keep yourself with that know-how, you know what I mean, then there's no reason why that person that you took, that forklift driver, he should be able to apply in a different position in that company.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Like you said, be able to work on the machine that replace them or whatever, whatever it may be. There's always positions that need to be filled.
Right.
Like percentage-wise, you're talking about the decrease in, I guess, of an audience to go after. What are you seeing as far as the future of the industry? Are you seeing, is there going to be a bell curve that's going to come back up?
I think a bubble's going to burst at some point, and we're going to face our challenges as an economy once again, and you're going to see a rise in unemployment. When that is, I couldn't tell you.
Right.
I'm not that analytical about it. All I can tell you is what trends I'm seeing right now and what I'm doing to adapt to those trends. Yeah. If and when that happens, obviously my job will get just a tad bit easier. You're going to have a lot more people out looking for an opportunity.
But you know what? I think that right now, because the unemployment being low, that's where these companies are looking for recruiters like you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it may contradict you as well. So that's kind of tough.
It's the business just ends up flipping.
Yeah.
So as opposed to me going out and looking for a passive candidate, because candidates are scarce, and when the market shifts, now I'm going to go look for a passive client who, well, we don't have a position right now, but I know who you are. I got your business card. You're in my Rolodex. Right. If I have a need, I'm going to call you. Or I'm going to email you. Yeah. And it's just keeping those relationships alive on both sides of the business. So you just got to know how to adapt and when to do it and when to adapt. Yeah. So
I love the sales part of it. And what are your tips as far as, from my standpoint, it's persistence, it's people skills, it's being there when they call. What are your tips to people that are looking to get into something? Maybe they're a little scared to get into a job that is so uncertain and they have to really put in extra work?
Well, one of the things that I stress very much with my colleagues is that you have to communicate and know how to communicate and set your expectations with the people that you communicate with. A follow-up is so important. Yeah. And whenever, and I said this earlier in this podcast, I tell everybody, if you call and I'm unavailable, please don't take it the wrong way. Leave a voicemail and please follow up with an email, because I structure my day off of my email, so I will commit to responding to every single email I get. And I've been true to that. I do respond to every email I get.
I'm sure you get a ton of them.
Oh, I do, but sometimes, and I tell people, I was like, don't be surprised if it's a one-word answer too, because I'm acting like I'm texting you, but I'm communicating with you. I want to make sure that you know that you're being heard, that you're being understood, that I'm answering your questions. I'm at least responding with, I don't know the answer, but give me a couple hours and I'll get back to you. And I usually do, oftentimes. So it holds a lot of weight being.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Once they're hired, how do you integrate with the payroll and with the actual onboarding? Is that something that your agency does as well, or you just kind of hand them over to the company?
Well, if it's a temp or temp to hire opportunity, they're obviously getting paid through us on a weekly basis. So we're their employer, they're working through us in somebody else's site. So we have a gross margin that we have to adhere to, not only to keep the lights on, but to pay the candidate to payroll them. We're paying an workers' comp. Yeah, workers' comp, all that insurance stuff to be compliant with the Affordable Care Act, everything that goes into just paying a candidate, an employee. And on top of that, paying our commission, because we're the ones that's why they sought us to find this candidate. Right. So on a temporary level, these people have an expiration date at a certain location. That seems to be going away for the specialized types of positions, like our office positions, because these people, if they're going to jump ship, they're not going to jump ship for a temporary position. It's going to be a direct hire. So that's how that market is shifting too. But sometimes you get your temp to hire, where after maybe at about 720 hours or so, they get hired on directly, because that's the agreement that we have with the company. To hire them on directly. There might be a conversion fee to pay, but it would only be equivalent to what a direct hire fee would have been from day one. But the way the employer would see it is that we're trying them out. This is their probationary period, and we're not responsible for them. Essentially, you guys have the workers' comp thing. You guys are paying their insurance.
We tried that a few years back too. We went through a temp agency, and it's kind of nice because literally, if you don't like them, just pick up the phone and call them and say, take them back. So send me someone new tomorrow.
We have to do the dirty work like that too sometimes.
They'll do the whole interview process, and they'll find that person. The only thing, what I started doing at the end is I'm like, let me meet them at least once. Because they would just send some people that I know just right off the back they're not going to fit.
Right.
So there is definitely a benefit in that. And then if you add it all up, though, the cost isn't that much higher. I mean, at least in my case, in my experience, because the workers' comp and the payroll, the employer payroll taxes, and then the unemployment, if you keep firing these people or they're not working out, your unemployment rate goes up. So a lot of times it's good that these tip agencies take those hits.
Yes, but I can assure you, you were likely using a temp agency that was for those low industrial types of positions. They specialize in that. So the margin's probably not that high, because they get contracts that are in bulk. They know that they're going to get a big volume of business, so they can keep their margins low. We don't. When we're specialized, there's only so many HR managers or generalists out there, positions that we can potentially fill. So we're more of a boutique. So because we specialize in more of a boutique type of position, our candidates are more of a boutique type of product.
Gotcha.
So the margin's going to be quite higher. I mean, so at that point, the business needs to decide, is it worth using a staffing firm for this kind of a position? And sometimes they fall off their chair when I tell them what our fees are, because they've only been used to using the low industrial type of services.
And I got to ask you, this is just totally off topic, but from my own knowledge, I mean, I hope this doesn't kind of, as a salesperson, I hope this doesn't kind of ruin your sales pitch.
Okay.
But working with a recruiter, I was so interested in figuring out how you communicate with the client and what your relationship is with the client versus the actual person that you're trying to recruit, because it kind of reminds me of like a realtor. When I bought my first house, it just so happened that the company that I used to as my realtor was also the one that was selling the house, and I was kind of confused as is there a conflict of interest? And in my experience with my recruiter, I felt like she was genuine. She had a really good heart. But at the end of the day, there was that part of me that I had to portray myself in a certain way to make sure that I was taken care of. For instance, I learned really early on the process that I wasn't happy with what I was hearing as far as what the initial offer was going to be. So after the second interview, after the third interview, I always gave positive feedback, but at the same time, I always made sure to compliment, sandwich it a little bit, where I was like, that's great, I love the opportunity, but you know, for me to make a switch like that, I know what it's going to take for me to make that jump because I love my job. And at the end of the day, she ended up being basically a negotiator for me. And their initial offer was way above what that originally was, and you know, it definitely made me happy. And I didn't have to come back with a second, you know, offer because essentially that was their best offer. Because she
nipped it in the butt.
Yeah, she let them know right off the bat, hey, he loves it, but he's not gonna leave unless you throw this number out there at least.
Yeah.
So I mean, what's your experience, if you don't mind sharing to the audience? How do you communicate to your client, but also have their best interest in mind? It's kind of.
I just want the way I approach it is just be honest. Just leave nothing to question. When I present a candidate, I'll let them know they're looking for this salary. They are currently employed, so they would not entertain attempt to hire opportunity. This has to
value,
be
kind of.
Yeah, they're you know, and just in case they don't know, this is the market right now for candidates like this. And so I have to be. That's where I have to be consultative to the client, and just let them know that this is the unicorn that you wanted. Maybe I'm checking off 4 of the 5 boxes on your wish list, but this is as close as I'm going to get to the person that you're looking for. Are you willing to pay an extra $5,000 a year for this person?
It costs this much.
Are you, you know, what are you willing to do to get the right person? And when and how well are you going to be at providing me with feedback if the person that I present you is not the person that you had in mind? Because I need to know where I fell short, and so that I can then seek out that person. And if I can't find them, then I can come back and say I can't find them. But I need to know what you're looking for from the get-go and be as honest with me as possible in regards to their budget too. Like, what's your budget on this? Like, how much is your company prepared to spend?
How much wiggle room do you have?
Yeah, exactly. But if you just come at it as an honest inquiry, you're gonna win on both sides. And I've never been about getting in the way of somebody getting a job because of conflict of interest. Me and my colleagues and everybody I've kind of sat with since I've been at this position, we're all in the mindset of let's just do what's best for the candidate because it's going to come back around. If you don't do what's best for the candidate or the entire situation, it's going to come back to you somehow. I mean, people talk. We all network. We're all business people. You know, we're going to hear about it sooner or later. And it's just the right thing to do. Just do the right thing from the get-go.
And I feel like I learned that lesson really quick. I mean, that's in sales. After my first year, I think you learn really quick. Like, just be honest. And at the end of the day, when I was going through the recruiting process, my first sales instinct is to always say to myself, ask for more. Like, what's the worst they can say is no. That's always my mindset. Ask for something. Hey, if they say no, so be it. But at the end of the day, I spoke to her about it, the recruiter, and she said, hey, like, I did all my negotiating for you. Like, trust me, if this is way above.
Sometimes it can be kind of, it can put the company off as well.
Exactly.
Because I have candidates do that to me.
Because she's like, you don't want to have your name fly through the CEO and the VP, and they're like, this guy again, like, we always like amazing offer. And then
we haven't met you, and you're already,
exactly
giving that bad
putting
taste.
that bullet on your back because you're like, hey, this guy thinks he's worth that. He better.
Better produce, kind of thing. Yeah.
So like the honesty was there, and I love that. So I definitely agree.
I think
with that.
The main thing is just making sure. Obviously, is when you're getting promoted and you're switching positions, you always want to have the increase. Obviously, don't want to have the decrease. But at the same time, as you want to prove your worth to them too.
Exactly.
So if you may not be getting what you want right now, but if you prove yourself to them, then I feel like it's easier to get your foot in the door and show off a little bit, so that way they know, okay, he's worth it. You know what I mean? Because if you already start, I've had that back and forth, and it's a put off. It just I don't want to deal with it anymore. Yeah, it's a bad taste already. Yeah, I could only imagine how it's going to be, in your performance reviews and all that. So I don't want to have that situation. I mean, as a business owner, that's how I look at it too.
And then there's that mindset where you keep going back and forth because you're like, you have one starting point and you can never go back to that. Yeah. So you can only start there and you can never really go back. So you're going to continue to go up, but it could always start at a certain number. Yeah. So you're always kind of weighing those options.
I mean, a lot of these companies, they have ranges too when they post them. I mean, they have this minimum to maximum, and you know your range, and that's basically what their budget is, right? So
Right.
It's all
Exactly.
about valuing what you present, right? I mean,
Exactly. And well, if I'm going to present somebody at a higher level, they're going to have a higher price tag. Just like with anything else in the market, when you go to a store, if you want quality, then you're going to have to pay for a little bit more.
yeah.
So that's what it comes down to.
we're definitely worth it, right? Well, I mean, thanks again for being here with us. I mean, we definitely learned a lot from that industry. I mean, people think HR. I mean, I think HR, you don't really go behind the scenes, especially when it comes to recruiting, having companies like yourself and people represent people like him that are looking for.
Yeah,
those
it's a lot
new
that goes
ventures.
into it.
Yeah.
A lot of networking. I mean,
So do you mind if
belonging
we
to
post
something.
your email or phone number or whatnot, post it up, and people looking for something?
Yeah,
give me your
absolutely.
information
I'll
so
be
we can post
willing.
it up,
Yeah, I'll be happy to talk to anybody who's looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you know, like you said, the nice part about being involved in chambers of commerce, I always like to throw it back in there, is I know you're not a member of any particular chamber, but that's because you work in such a large area.
Right.
Right. But at least you do see the benefits in attending these events and meeting these people, because even a lot of them, they may be business owners, but a lot of them may be going through a rough patch, or they, you know, or they work for another corporation where they are considering jumping ship. So I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's those benefits in attending those events.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only are you meeting with potential clients, but some of those people there can also become candidates at some point. Yeah.
Awesome.
Anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Well, just selfishly, aside from my executive recruiter work, the FooBar Show, it's FOOBarshow.com. That's our podcast. Very much your morning drive kind of podcast, unfiltered.
Yeah, unfiltered.
I also play music I play guitar for a band called The Fallen Electric. TheFallenElectric.com is where you can find us. We have an album out. You can find it on iTunes and all that good stuff. So if you like rock and roll.
It's funny, too, because we're at the podcast, and I'm like, look, I always relate it back to business.
Yeah.
Podcast is business, and your music is business.
Yeah.
It's all about how much you're investing in, who do you know, and about networking. And I always see the business side of everything. So, yeah, you're definitely a business person when it comes to all of that.
Yeah. Very entrepreneurial in that sense, for sure.
Yeah, well, thanks again for being here with
Yeah,
us.
thanks,
and,
guys. Thanks for being on my podcast, too.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. It was fun.
You can join our show every Friday at 6 p.m. I think we're going to go.
6 p.m.
Yeah, because now we're going over, and at least we don't feel as bad as it getting too late.
Definitely. We're good.
Well, thanks again, and
Thanks, guys.
see you guys soon.
Thanks again for listening to the Chamber of Commerce Show. Join us every week for more valuable information. There's so much to learn. We're building stronger people in the field of business from all industries. This show can transform your business to the next level, and it can help people with minimal business experience to become gurus in a relatively short time. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Chamber Show. And don't forget to visit our website for more valuable information at www.thechamber.com.